What is up, everybody? Welcome here back to the Royale YouTube channel. We're back with another Dynasty edition today. We're going to be looking at Dynasty Fantasy Football and Dynasty rookie picks and their current market value. So what I like to do, we do this every month. We kind of look at where rookie picks are right now. So we're going to go through the first and second round of 2024 picks and 2025 picks, kind of give you guys players, ideas, where you could kind of ship these off to. And then we're going to look at some real live Dynasty trades that have happened. And I'm going to give you my favorite buy right now. So my current buy, one of those favorite kind of targets of mine in Dynasty leagues before the season starts, which is obviously tomorrow, but maybe you can jump on it today. So let's dive into the Dynasty rookie picks after the intro. All right, so let's get into it. We know Caleb Williams is that coveted 2024 first, who you want to go get him for. But let's talk about where we're seeing this right now. So across the board, it's a little different, right? And we're not talking straight up here. Obviously, these deals are going to be all over the place. I do a Dynasty Football Guys show podcast that you should go check out. And we talked about like projecting where first are tough, right? Like you might think it's an early first and that team goes off. So, unless it's a true, really bad team where that early first is going to be really bad, you have to be very careful with how to project it. But right now, early first are kind of going around Devonta Smith, Christian McCaffrey, Chris Olave. Smith being there, it kind of surprised me a little bit based on the values. You can't get an early first for obviously Smith, but he's going in that 1 to 4 range, 101 to 104 range with something added, right? So if you add maybe a pick or something like that, you might be able to do that. But really, you're talking about the elite assets right now. Mid first, you're looking at Josh Jacobs, Ken Walker. Maybe if Ken Walker can slip in there, it really depends on Walker. Walker's values across the board. Some people think he should still be in a top 8 running back. Some people say he's like 12, 13, 14 range. Then you have Austin Eckler sitting in there. Some are really worried. Jeff Bell from Football Guys talks about how he's kind of worried about Eckler. Kind of depends on what you think of that value. Late, we have Jared Goff, we have Michael Pittman and J.K. Dobbins, right? So these guys, Goff, can he get that contract with Detroit? Pittman, what is he going to look like? A lot of people think he's kind of perennial wide receiver too. J.K. sitting there. Now, this isn't obviously everybody, but these are guys that I thought were interesting where some deals have been made. Now, let's look at the actual trades. So here are some things that we've seen. So we've seen Zay Flowers in a 24 first for DK Metcalf. Now, a lot of people are buying into the Zay Flowers buzz, right? And maybe you can, if you're a rebuilder and you want to kind of dive into that Zay Flowers, get that first back for DK, whose value has kind of shifted a lot, right? Kind of getting taken after JSN in some drafts, like when you're looking at kind of the value there. So maybe this is kind of how you kind of recoup some of that. Javonte Williams for a 24 first. So we've seen that going on. Javonte Williams getting buzzed. Maybe going to be starting, at least 50 to 60% of the snaps here in this first week. Maybe this is where you capitalize, you get a first, or maybe you believe in Javonte, right? And maybe that's a late first and you want to take a shot there. Then we have Kyler Murray for Jahan Dotson and a first. Kyler Murray is one of the most, I don't know, debated players in Dynasty right now. Some people really love this value for him. They're going to go grab him, and I've seen a lot of deals made for that. I saw Kyler Murray for Jared Goff in a first. And actually, no, Jared Goff in a second. So, that's Murray's value. Kyler Murray for Jahan Dotson in a first. And in a recent Dynasty trade, Kyler Murray for Jared Goff in a second. So he's all across the board. If you believe they can get back in that top 5, top 6 status for Kyler Murray, then you're on board for this, right? This is what you're doing. But if that first turns into Marvin Harrison Jr. or, Caleb Williams, I think you could be in a little bit of trouble here, kind of going that. But it's hard to project. But if it's a late first and you want to take a shot on a guy like Murray in Superflex, you have that third QB spot open where you can just taxi him or IR him, that could be the option. Now, as far as seconds go right now, early 24 seconds, Sam Howell, Sky Moore, Mike Williams. So you're looking at kind of value there, depending on if you want to get on or get off of these guys. Mid, Rashee Rice is kind of going in that range. Maybe Dalvin Cook, if they believe that, Breece Hall is going to be slow. You kind of buy him there. Cole Kmet is going in that range as well. And again, some of these guys I would sell. Like Cole Kmet, I'm probably looking to move off of him in that passing offense. Late, Darnell Mooney, Nathaniel Dell, Josh Downs. So you're looking at some of those seconds. Josh Downs' values spiking a little bit because it looks like he kind of took over that slot role, but there's still question marks with that running back room with, what is that going to look with Anthony Richardson at quarterback, with Pittman being there? Is that second guy in that offense as a target guy really going to matter fantasy-wise this year? I think that's the question that you have to look at yourself with Downs. I believe in the talent, though. I do think that. Now, when you're looking at some deals for seconds, straight up for Tank Dell, that's a pretty common one. Brandon Cooks in a second for Treylon Burks. So Burks has been one of those sneaky buys out there. If you believe in the talent, many people are, 107, 108 last year. Now he's going for that second in Cooks. Where would you go with that one? I think the talent still lies for Burks. Like, I still think that he's getting moved for first somewhere out there. So if you can kind of, sneak in there and grab him for a second and Cooks is your wide receiver 5 or 6. I don't mind taking the shot on Burks. And then the next one's interesting. It's Tua for Kirk Cousins, Williams in a second. And I like to add these because these are super flex, right? So this is all PPR, 12-team super flex. Where is this at? So Tua for Kirk Cousins and Jameson Williams is interesting. Jameson Williams' value is completely shot down. You have a second there, which is a throw-in, and you get Kirk Cousins. And if you believe Tua can be healthy, he's, QB 10-ish, right? You're thinking of that range where he can be. Like, this might not be a bad price to buy a QB 2 in Superflex. Now, 25 first, where are they at? Early, CJ Stroud is still in there. Kyler Murray is also in there. Tony Pollard is kind of going that 25 first. And I could see that for maybe a person not wanting to give up a 24 first, but they're contend. Hey, listen, I'm going to contend. I'll take Tony Pollard this year, give up my 25 first and try to compete the next 2 years and not worry about my 25 first and just go from there. That's interesting, I think, with Pollard. Mid, Jordan Love is in there. Terry McLaurin, Dalton Kincaid. So again, you're kind of betting high on Kincaid. You're thinking, hey, he could be a top 5 guy. Terry's an interesting one. And again, I think, Jay Stein talks about this a lot. You'll see him on this channel, but he does stuff for football guys as well. And he talks about his big, investor series. He talks about 25 first being the cheapest that you can acquire right now, right? So if you're like, hey, I'm off of Jordan Love. He's my QB3. I've held him this long. Maybe you can shift him for a 25 first and be happy with that, right? Terry McLaurin, same thing. So there's a little bit of strategy involved here, trying to get rid of, maybe some of these assets you've held on to for a little bit. Miles Sanders, for example, maybe he's worth the late 25 first for somebody out there, because dynasty managers are always willing to give up the 2 years away one, not the 1 year away, right? And that is something to kind of manipulate a little bit. Marquise Brown is in there. Brock Purdy is still in there. And again, if he's the starter of the 49ers, he's probably going to be worth a first, but maybe you get out of it now, right? Before they trade for Kirk Cousins next year. That's the joke everybody always talks about. Now, as far as deals, we've seen 25 first and a second for Nick Chubb. And, someone that kind of highlighted this one was Chubb. Chubb's kind of going for that range. Not a ton of people give him for late 24 first, but 25 first. I saw a couple deals for Chubb on that. Godwin for a 25 first. And again, maybe you have Godwin and you're going to ship him off and you'll take that first. I do think Mike Evans' contract situation is interesting. Godwin could be the wide receiver 1 there, maybe as soon as this year if Evans gets traded, if that's going down pretty bad as the trade deadline goes. So maybe you want to kind of buy high a little bit for Godwin and expect that kind of, I don't want to say breakout because he's been good, but the idea of like having him be that true wide receiver 1 on that roster. And you have Cooper for a 25 first. And I've talked about Mark Cooper in the past in a different episodes. And I like Cooper. I don't know if I'd give up a first for Cooper because, his nickname is the fantasy locust because he's hot and cold. But I think that is an interesting deal, right? I do think that's there. Now, 25 seconds, again, just kind of throw-ins. You got Roshan Johnson. Looks like he's running back 3-ish. He's going to probably be a 1B next year based on his pass catching and his ability to block. Romeo Dubs, I like Dubs a lot. He's been injured, though, so I think that value is going to go down a little bit. Antonio Gibson is still out there, so if you're still holding on to an Antonio Gibson share, every year people buy into him, and if you feel like this is the time to pivot, could be. Darnell Mooney, Rondale Moore, Dalton Schultz is in the mid. And then late, Isaiah Likely, Kenneth Gainwell, Michael Thomas. Gainwell and Thomas are very, very volatile assets. Gainwell could be, maybe, hey, they talked about being running back 1, but he's probably in a committee. Maybe this is the time you get rid of him for a second, right? Maybe Michael Thomas, this is the final value opening you have, right? Unless he has those 3 games that he pops off and you can kind of ship him there. Now, as far as some deals that we've seen, 25 second for Dalvin Cook. I think that he's in the middle there, depending on where you look, where people believe in him. 25 second for Tyler Algier. And then Rashad Bateman and Nico Collins for Kendra Miller in a second. I thought that was an interesting one. Like, do you buy low kind of on Rashad there? People are really high on Kendra. Like, they really think Kendra Miller can kind of step up in the next couple of years. Then you get that second. I really feel like a rebuilding team is that Rashad Bateman. Like, hey, I'll take the wide receivers. I'll hope that they grow. Maybe I can move them and have that value there. Miller, you're hoping that's there. And second is kind of like a dart throw. So I do see the value on both sides in that one. Now, as far as my buy, I like Sky Moore right now. Now, he's going to play on Thursday night. We're going to see him there. But right now, I just think that he's a value. So let's look at it. Right now on Keep Trade Cut, his wide receiver 43. And for someone that could be as young as him in this offense, and especially with Kelsey getting older, right? If we think of this, and maybe Sky Moore breaks out this year, and I do think that he can come out of there with Tony coming back and all the way the targets are going to be. I don't necessarily think Sky Moore is going to have a huge year this year, but he can have a very good year. And for where he's going, Sky Moore for Kenneth Gainwell, smash Sky Moore for me, right? Like I'll take Sky Moore all day on a roster there because Gainwell's probably my running back 5 or 6. I don't really care about that. I'll take Sky Moore with that potential of him being the true, actual maybe number one target getter in a couple years. If Kelsey does go, obviously they'll probably go look for other weapons, but Sky Moore could be that guy. Sky Moore could be something in this offense that we really like, and he's tied to Mahomes, right? There's a ton of other wide receivers going in that 35 to 43 range is tied to crappy systems, crappy wide quarterbacks. Moore could be that talent you buy in on, right? Brandon Cooks for a 24 third. Again, I generally speaking really like the Sky Moore for Brandon Cooks for a 24 third, just based on that talent there with them. So I agree. I think that when you're looking at Sky Moore and Brandon Cooks, and we've I've debated this with Christian Williams. He's on this channel as well. I've kind of debated the Sky Moore thing. He's always kind of held really firm to his belief that Sky back, or excuse me, wide receiver. And I think so too. I think that he can be. And when you're looking at Sky Moore for Brandon Cooks in the third, you're kind of shipping off Brandon Cooks, that veteran. I don't mind the buying the Sky Moore train. I don't mind doing that, right? And getting him there. And again, I'd rather take him than the back than Kenneth Gainwell. So I think Sky Moore is my guy. I think someone going in, maybe he's gonna have a big game tomorrow, and we're talking about like, oh man, he should have bought him now. Should have listened to me then. But I think he's cheap. I think he's there. Now, the only issue with Sky Moore would be that the guy that believes in Sky Moore is the guy that roster him right now, and he's going to value him too high. But if there's an opening there, Sky could be one of those guys that you go grab right now, and you can kind of reap the benefits as you go. Because I think his value is only going to increase. He's someone that we're going to watch, and as I give these, I'm going to keep a tally and accountability of where they kind of value goes up and down. So appreciate you guys. Hit that like and subscribe button. We'll be back with another edition of this next week, talking kind of about pick values, but also player values. So hit that like and subscribe button. If you like college football, if you like fantasy, if you like NFL, we're a channel that covers it all here. We're going to have a lot of fun this year, and we're excited to bring it to you. So appreciate you guys. See you guys next time.